to Minnesota is rust. We have the Malibu that was quote unquote restored on the road. We got a little bit of work we got to do. We've got some, oh, it's unhappy. Seat belts. We got to put some work into a couple things. One, we gotta, we buy Amazonian generic headlights. Here, that's you. One is turning blue, so we're gonna replace that guy. And then maybe we'll be able to listen on some of the front end noise. We got some noisiness coming from the front. It needs some rear suspension components like the sway bars replaced. Sway bar or not in links, but the
look
bushings.
at that great phone holder.
That's right. You don't. This is custom. She's custom.
We fixed that.
We fixed it. Fixed on it.
Just don't put anything important underneath it when you're in there.
Yep. So you'll hear some clunking from the rear, and we tried replacing the sway bars in links or the bushings, but the bolts just rusted off, so we left them. But in the front,
didn't we snap off one of the bolts?
Yeah, that's Minnesota is rust. But in the front, we've got, you can hear different
noise, and especially when you put on the brakes.
So it gets a little quieter, or it changes when you hit the brakes. So you might need to turn the front rotors or something like that, and we'll be back in just a minute. So cheap Amazon LED, been in here 5 years maybe. That one's going strong. This one, half of it's turned in blue, and so we'll kill our lights quick in here. Oh, of course, I don't think I picked it up, but that's a lot more blue than white over there. So gonna replace that one and go from there. So here we are back on the 2010 Malibu. A couple videos ago, you saw us put upper strut mounts in up there. Couldn't get that seated the right way, so we'll just let that ride for now. Getting some noise up here in the brakes. Got to check our pads and see if our rotors are square. Always put anti-seize. Everything comes off easy again. We'll be back. So the mystery deepens. The pads look good. Plenty of life there. But you can see the wheel has been a tiny bit loose for the last chunk of miles. And you can see it's wore the grease away on the rotor right there. And you can see some shiny spots on the wheel. So we're going to go through, put everything back together, retorque our wheels, and go for a drive and see how it feels. We always are pretty good with retorquing our wheels, but sometimes aluminum, you got to be a little touchier. You know, check them maybe twice or 3 times. After 50 miles again. But with steel, usually you're pretty good. So we will check that again. So we got that put back together. Brakes look good. Caliper bracket, caliper back on, everything torqued to specs. Wheel back on. We're going to retorque it, go for a drive. So, problem solved. Just needed to retorque our, is someone breaking in? Are you breaking in? No. No? Okay. Just needed to retorque and retighten our wheels. Good lesson learned on that. Typically, like I said before, steel wheels aren't a super issue. You tighten them once and they're good. You retorque them once. So this one we'll pay attention to a little bit closer. Had about 500 miles on them, and they wiggled loose a little bit. So we'll pay attention to that. Next, if you've ever had, we're recording here, people. If you've ever had the pleasure of owning 08 to 12 Malibu, you should look in your owner's manual and see what it says about changing your headlights. If you look at your owner's manual about changing your headlights, it will say, call your dealership. So I buy this car, brand new, 13 years ago, and I never dreamed in a million years that in order to change the headlights is you have to take the front bumper off. So through the years of changing the headlights, we've learned a few tricks. We're going to help you with that right now. By the way, it should never in a million years be designed this way. It's silly, it's ridiculous. Give me Chevy Suburban. Give me a Chevy truck. Pretty much any year, 96 through 12 or something like that. All you got to do is open the hood, pull some pins, and you're right where you need to be. So we'll go through this process real quick with you, help you out. So this will be adventuresomeness on here. Any thoughts on what we're going to do? Star of the show.
So what are we doing?
Thanks for coming. Oh, we got a show. You know, since we're professional, we're basically influencers, is what we are. We're up in our merch game, and boy, look at that. We've got some window clings. Not for sale yet, but check that baby out. Look at that absolute unit. Window cling, we know, full service shop, employees only. We got that going on. So we'll be back in just a minute. First part of getting this apart is taking this splash shield off the front. Couple different bolts. Taking the splash shield off the front. So some have bolts, some have buttons you get to pop to. Pop some buttons. There's the one long bolt that holds the air intake tube. It kind of holds it up so it's away from the heat and away from the radiator. That's got a really long, goofy bolt, so I just put that one back in so you don't misplace it. Goes through the grommet here. So now that cover is off. There is one bolt that is way up underneath the wheel well, way up inside here. And let me get a tool on that, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second. So from under the wheel well, there's our tire. There's the bolt. And it's at kind of a weird angle, kind of tilted to the front, so you can't go straight perpendicular from the ground. You got to angle it up towards the edge of the wheel well more. So that's the hardest one to get, 10 millimeter. Go slow and you'll get it. So you get that bolt out, then you want to take the push pins that are out of the inner fender that hold the inner fender to the bumper cover. Don't worry about on the fender because you're not going to touch the fender, just that bumper cover. So then you get those pop loose. This just pulls free. There's just little buttons that kind of hold it, not really buttons, grooves. You just pull that free. It's not connected under the headlight. Up on the top, you just pull it free. You can see where it clamps on top right there. Then you can get to that bolt for the headlight and that bolt for the headlight. And after a bit of finagling, you're able to get the headlight out about this far. And that's all you need to get to your low beam right here. You can see we had LED light in there before just for the low beam. High beam, those are plenty bright. A lot of night driving, so an LED low beam is great. Like I said, these have been here at least 5 years, maybe 6. And with a lot of nighttime driving that I do, I would buy the brightest bulbs you could get. As you know, the brighter they are, the hotter they run, the quicker they burn out. So I would get Sylvania, like the orange ones. I used to do they were either black or blue Silver Stars, and then I got the orange ones, which were the bright ones, the whatever they were. And nice to see, but these are $30 or $40 for a pair, so they're less than half, and they last. These have lasted 5 times as long. I go through a pair a year low beams with those. These never had an issue, except for this one started turning blue. So we're going to swap it out, and we'll go from there. So, quick tip. If you are installing some aftermarket ones, as you can see, there's no ridge here in the middle. There's no ridge that keeps you, so you can only plug it in one way instead of the other. This doesn't have that, like a factory one would. So You plug it in one way, see if it works. If not, 50-50-90 rule, like Morsky always said. If it doesn't work this way, plug it in the other, and it should work. So there we can see, got the fresh one installed. It might get a little flicker action from the camera, but it's nice and white, as opposed to half blue on one side. Nice and white on that one. By the way, super cool. The very center of the light right there, you probably can't see it on the camera, little Chevy emblem in the middle. As you know, the high beams don't have a cover over the front. The low beams do, just to deflect the light to the sides more. And like I just said, I did follow the 50-50-90 rule. I had it in the wrong way, which was great. Here's the one that came out. We'll give that a chance to focus. Maybe. I got my digging going on because I got my lights on. There we go. So that's what the LED should look like. See the little yellow squares right there? And the one that was turning blue, one that was turning blue, oh, that one just fell off. You see the one in the middle was kind of burned out, and there's a piece of LED that just fell off right there as I was messing around with it. And that's the one that was turning blue instead of yellow. It still works. Both sides still light. You can see it shoots light from one side to the other. And so sometimes it depends on if you put the bulb in this way or this way or this way, it'll change your light patterns. So actually on this one, I have them set opposite on my car here. So I have one that's set a little bit more side to side, one that's set a little bit more up and down. Focus, just to give a little bit broader light up here in the front too. So kind of neat. One last thing on these BeamTech Amazon specials that I just stumbled across because they had good ratings. The newer ones now have a different kind of base you can get. It's a smaller base because some of them won't fit in a bigger car. 2007 through at least 12 Silverado Suburban. I've got a set in that vehicle, and I tried to make it fit by shaving the edge off. Of course, these are heat sinks that make it run cooler. And it kind of sort of fit, but it ended up shredding out where it's supposed to screw in because it was still too tight. I had realized then that they sold the newer version has it's a much smaller base on it that doesn't have to worry about clearance side to side, so that works great. And so now that's the ones that I use. This was a set that I bought, gosh, I don't know, 3 years ago, sitting on the shelf, and they work great still. So we'll put her back together. So you get the bolts set in, finger tight. There's one. There's the other. Make sure you get these tabs. There's a kind of a groove they fit in on the headlight. Once you get the headlights tight, then they don't wiggle at all. Adjustments, I leave them at factory adjustments with that. We'll get those tightened back up. Maybe clean some junk out of there while we're here. And by the way, that's how you get to the pump for your washer fluid, if you're wondering. It's hiding down there. And we'll get that finished buttoned up. We have officially wrapped up the headlight swap and checking the brakes and retorquing the wheels. So now we'll see how long that one lasts. Like I said, had good luck with those. And got it back together. Terrible design, like we talked about. But what are you going to do? Star of the show, do you have any thoughts? No. Okay. There we go. Like, share, subscribe on our goal to 300 subs. Thank you much, and we'll see you.